Hello there, good morning, and welcome to That Makes Me Mad. As promised, we have live in studio with us today. It's a pleasure to have the MP for Castries South, Dr. Ernest Hilaire. Dr. Hilaire, a very good morning to you.
A very pleasant good morning to you, Andre, and to your listeners.
And viewers. We are on Facebook, yes, on YouTube, etc., etc. We're also streaming live, so all over the globe.
Yeah, I must admit that this is one of my most anticipated shows. From last week, people have been calling me that Andre had said I was going to be on, and so many persons called and said they will be calling to ask me questions. So I'm here. I was hoping your friend Double C would have been here with me, but he's not here, because sometimes I listen to you and him and the discussion and the debate, yes, and I wish he was going to be here. So let's look forward to a very exciting. We have some serious business ahead of us. Sunday is coming. It's a national protest, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that. So
definitely. We have a lot to cover, a lot to cover.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Hilaire, first of all, the last time we actually spoke on this station was years ago. Yeah. I think you were into youth development and so on, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think that's probably the first time we spoke.
I think so.
You're one of the first people I spoke to many, many years ago.
Yeah. And you, at the time, remember you telling me you're just a regular guy, I think from the Grass Street area.
No, Hospital Road area.
Hospital Road area. Okay, well, good. Yeah. Let's talk a little more about that, if you don't mind. Yeah. Take us back to those days.
Well, I born and raised by the bridge, just by the old cemetery, up to by Cozy Corner, my stomping ground for our show, Hospital Road, Banan. I started off as a student leader. Was the first president of the student branch of the National Youth Council. Went on to become vice president of the National Youth Council, many years in the youth movement as a youth leader under Mario Michel. Persons like Henry Charles, Lilia Ogis, Peter Fevrier, a number of outstanding youth leaders. I actually started a club. I was part of the persons who started the Rotary Club together with Stevenson King. We were in the same youth group together, many, many years ago. And we produced some outstanding youth leaders in St. Lucia, and I was part of that movement in the 1980s into the 90s. Went on to the regional youth movement, where I was also president of the Caribbean Federation of Youth. So my background is youth and sports. Went to university, studied political science and sociology, developed a deep interest in social research and stuff like that. Eventually got qualified, got a PhD. I was PS Youth and Sports, for me, one of the most pleasing moments of my life, where we built the National Cricket Ground, the National Stadium, playing fields all over the islands, NSDC, James Belgrave Micro Enterprise Fund, PRF, Proud, a number of social initiatives. I was, part of the team that was involved in it. So, I feel I've had a very rich involvement in the community, representing young people. But my training was always, international politics and diplomacy. And eventually I became an ambassador. Of course, along the way, I was CEO of Cricket World Cup, CEO of the West Indies Cricket Board, did some management consulting in the United States, and ended up, representing my area, the area I was born and raised. My mother is from Basse Joseph, so my family is located in Basse Joseph.
What about your father?
Well, my father is from, yonder.
Understood.
Yeah. But for me, I'm proud to represent Castries South, because I was born, I was raised in that area. I know that area. I know the aspirations of the people in that area. I did not know Cicero as well, because I've gotten to know Cicero so well over the last 2 years, to build relationships, build friendships. And it's exciting for me and to be representing an area that I have so many dreams as to what we can do to transform the area. More importantly, it's a chance for me, a final chance really, for me to serve my country. I've served my country as a student leader, attending conferences all over the world, addressing United Nations conferences on youth in the Caribbean, and the NYC really nurtured me and shaped me into what I am. And I've kind of moved up the ranks, from student to youth to the professional representation and now political representation. And I'm certainly looking forward in my latter years of my life to make a full commitment to represent the people of Castries South and the people of St. Lucia. And this is why I'm very passionate about some of the issues I speak about, because I think the future of our country is at stake. And there is so much now to worry us. And when I hear some of the statements made by the Prime Minister about education and about Sir Arthur Lewis, I get frightened, because I used to be a student leader right here on the Mon, from the A-level community college. And we led demonstrations here on the college, to make sure that education education is a right, not a privilege. And when you hear those achievements being rolled back or being threatened to roll back, it frightens you. And it's one of the things I'm saying to young people when they ask me about the march and why. I say to them, it's your future. I was once a youth leader, student leader, fighting, demonstrating for a better future. And now that's under threat, and that's why you must stand up and be counted and not be intimidated by a culture of fear that is being nurtured. And, you know, the media has been threatened, you know, and people generally feel a little reluctant because, you know, they want to be careful, they don't want this and that, they don't want that. And to tell them to be emboldened and to come out and defend the country. You may not be necessarily a supporter of the Labour Party, but you are St. Lucian, a patriotic St. Lucian. And when things are threatening the whole future of our country, we should speak up. And I think, which is one of the pleasing moments for me, when this march started off, it was a Labour Party political march against the government. And in the last couple of weeks or so, I have been part of the planning and the organization, and people are reaching out and say, look, we want to speak, we want to come out. We're not sure we want to wear red. Is this only Labour Party? And we've had to say to them, no, it's now becoming a national protest. Wear whatever you want, whatever placard you want, whatever slogan you want on your T-shirt. Who wants to speak? And people are approaching us. And the headache we now have is that we don't have enough time to have so many speakers. So how do we leave out some? Who do we include? But these are good headaches to have, yeah? But we have a bigger headache, and that is the state of our country and the future of our country.
And we'll get to that in a second, Dr. Hilaire. But first of all, I want to ask you, you know, what got you into the politics, and why did you choose the Labour Party, you know, to, you know, as your...
I don't think anyone has ever asked me that before, but, you know, it's a very good question, I tell you. I think I grew up as a young man on the block, whatnot. I didn't like the system. And I'll admit something to you that I probably never admitted. When I was growing up on the bridge, I wanted to be a Rastafarian, to be honest with you. But those were the days, you know. I mean, what Rastafari stood for, you know, for me was something which was powerful. Because those were the nurturing days of your consciousness, African liberation, the anti-apartheid struggle, what's happening in Namibia. And you started to read and you started to understand history, and you felt powerful about that. And I remember once a teacher, I was telling her to a teacher, the deceased Roland Branch, and he asked me if I ever see any Rasta as a prime minister. And he said to me, if you really want to change, it's not Rasta that changes. It was a kind of, you know, cynical statement, but it reflected something and to me. So I grew up having that kind of consciousness. I grew up among people on the bridge who had a strong consciousness. Mr. Kade's sons and, you know, some of those people, my own elder brothers and whatnot. And you develop that kind of consciousness. But at school, I was still of a certain kind of behavior. And I think going to A-level transformed that. Paulette Louise, Her Excellency, was principal. And she was very encouraging of student governance and student activity. And then at the same time, you had the Mario Michels, the Lila Ogis, the Edward Innocent, Dominic Fede, Augustine Dominic, Peter Fravy, all of them, forming this National Youth Council. And Henry Mangal, myself, you know, Patrick Prosper, and a number of other leaders decided we wanted to be part of it as student leaders, and we got involved in it. And the more we read and we studied, we started to develop a critique of the government at that day. We felt that the UWP then had focused too much on certain infrastructural projects in the country, but our social development was severely lacking in this country. We didn't have a stadium. We're still running on bare feet on Minifile Park. When Grenada had a stadium, this one had a stadium, Antigua had facilities, and we were bigger than them, and we couldn't have that. We looked at the prisons on Bridge Street. We knew friends who had gone to prison, and we saying, is that the conditions for young people to be placed in? And we started to develop a serious critique, and the foremost of that critique was education. In 1997, Andre, significant number of persons, if 4,000 children started common entrance, they only had school places for about 1,000 odd. That was St. Lucia in 1997. There was still the shift system. Shift system in 1997 when St. Vincent already had universal secondary education. And we developed a powerful critique of the government and saying that social development is equally important. Social development should not only rest on if you have surplus in government, because John Compton had a very rigid fiscal approach to the country. You invest if when you have surplus, and therefore debt was kind of very low because of that. But it meant that social development was lacking. And let me remind listeners of something. Indiscipline had become so prevalent in the country. In the late 80s, the Ministry of Education formed a national task force on indiscipline. And I remember it because I represented the NYC on that task force. And we were arguing then, indiscipline is not only young people, and once you're young, you're indisciplined. And the NYC is a very active participant in that national task force, trying to change the narrative in the country away from the fact that all young people are indisciplined, and once you're young, you're likely to be indisciplined. In the late 80s, Romanas Lancico said the hospital was in such a bad state, we needed a new hospital. And he was told, well, go and raise monies and start the process, and we'll look to build a new hospital. In the 1980s, that's what my memory brings up. So those issues have been festering from the 1980s. So I grew up out of that consciousness, the anti-apartheid movement, African liberation, and our own critique of the social underdevelopment of our country. So I was very passionate about it. I was a community activist, the whole country, visiting all communities, mobilizing young people. We had a very active national youth movement. And of course, I went to university and I started studying politics from an academic perspective. And it really kind of cemented my views, gave me an all-round understanding of politics from the practical to the academic. I got first-class honors at K-Ville. I went on to Cambridge University, and I went back to teach at K-Ville. And I started to work with Owen Arthur. I got to know him, eventually became Prime Minister, and he introduced me to Kenny Anthony. And there was a whole long thing about why he thought I should beat Kenny Anthony to go back to St. Lucia. And of course, the elections of '97, where, I managed Mario Michel's campaign. I had worked with Mario in my first election campaign in 1986. I was not yet 18 years old yet, but I was out there with him, learning campaigns and how campaigns are done. And then Dr. Anthony asked me to be his personal assistant, and I became the administrative attaché. And for the next 2 years, it was probably the most rewarding years of my life in terms of the work we did, the social engineering that we had fought for in the NYC. We had a chance to implement it. Universal secondary education, build a national cricket ground, build a national stadium, build a new prisons, NSDC for skills training, James Belgrave Micro Enterprise Fund for young people to get loans, the PRF to deal with poverty reduction, Proud to give land to poor people. Those ideas were big ideas that we had from the youth movement in the 80s. And you can go back and read a document that was prepared by the NYC called A White Paper on a Youth Policy for St. Lucia. And you'll almost see all those ideas were there. That's what youths were calling for in the 80s and we were advocating for. And we had a chance to be in government to start implementing those things. So I became even more passionate now that you were in a place where you could help deliver. So I've always been political in a sense. I became the Labour Party. I'll tell you, there's some things about Labour Party that just defines me and what I believe in as a person. But I'll give you a practical example in life. I grew up by the bridge. My mother always wanted to live there and go and find somewhere else to live because she felt, the constraints of such social conditions would not allow her children to really fulfill their abilities and their talents. And she just couldn't get a piece of land elsewhere to move out to until Labour Party came into power in 1979. And finally, Mikey Pilgrim, who I have eternal respect for, arranged for her to get a piece of land in Leclerc, not far from your home. Yeah? And, every single one of us that spent our latter years at Leclerc actually went on to university and did up to master's level at university. What a piece of land can do to empower a family, to have that piece of paper that you can use to go to the bank to get a loan, to just create the conditions where you can now have electricity, you can now have this, you can now have that, and create better conditions for your children to grow and learn. The Labour Party did that. And it reinforced my view that government must not only be about running it like a business. It's not about seeing people you help out as mendicants. It's not about believing that if we just allow some people to make enough profit, probably they will pass on some of the profit and help the lesser ones. Government is about reconstruction, about re-engineering, about redirecting. It's about nurturing and giving opportunity to people. And government, yes, has to be efficient. It must earn money. It must earn what it spends. But it must never forget it is about creating that new social being. And I believe we must never remove that from government. And I see this is happening every day in St. Lucia. Schools must now pay rent. So AFA must now be self-sufficient. Give every child $2,000 and tell them go and find their own post-secondary education. I see it happening, the state of the playing fields, and I'm passionate about sports. I mean, my own background has us involved in sports management. I feel strongly about that, what's happening to our young people, to our creative industries. This is something I was, after Dr. Anthony repeatedly, because I had seen what Owen Arthur had done in Barbados, about the creative industries and how it can transform a whole youth sector and give hope and aspiration to people who want to be in modeling, in this fashion design, in music. I had seen what he had done in Barbados, and Dr. Anthony, was, on that same cue. And I see that being destroyed. In St. Lucia, we had a unit that deals with creative industries, and that was virtually closed down. And I believe that we've made progress in the last few years under both earlier UWP administrations and Labour Party. And all of that has been demolished. That's a new word now. Let's demolish the old prisons, forgetting the history of that building, what it was before. I'm not saying we should not use it for other purposes, but these are historical buildings, and how can we preserve it and use it to move forward? We have to demolish the printery and demolish the courthouse and demolish the parliament, and no thought to where was going to replace it. And let's demolish this, and let's change this, and let's stop this, and stop this, and stop this, and stop this. And it's creating a whole psychological derangement, if I want to say, in the country. So why am I Labour? I'm Labour because I believe Labour Party is about creating opportunity for people and putting people at the center of development and looking to transform and to make our people. Now, I'm not saying other persons don't have the same goals and objectives, but the methodology and the way in which they want to do it is radically different from the Labour Party, and I do not ideologically believe that the best way to develop our country is to make some people very rich, and hopefully they will have excess and they will then look after the lesser persons.
Now, Dr. Hilaire, before we get into the march and all that, there's some controversial matters surrounding you and maybe your tenure in government, etc., etc. First of all, I'll ask you about a rumor that you are seeking the leadership of the St. Lucia Labour Party. What is your take on that one?
Absolutely not true. If there's one person that Philip J. Pierre, I've said to Philip from day one, Philip, if there's one person you can depend on to call any hour of the night, any hour of the day, is me. Kenny Anthony, he knew. He could have called me anytime, anyway. He said, Ernest, write this for me, do this for me, do this. And I would wake up and do it. Philip Pierre, you have the same commitment from me. Absolutely same. And Philip and I go back so far. People have a way of spreading rumors and saying things. Philip and I go back so far from when I was a student in England. Philip was Minister of Tourism. Philip would not come to London and do not check me. We would go to bookstores together and sit down and read books. Anthony Gittins, and I showed him all the new philosophy books we read. We've had that kind of relationship over the years. But everything else, people will say, Philip is next in line. They see Ernest as supposedly a future, and therefore he must be ambitious and he wants it. Let me tell you. You see, right now, Andre, I'm getting to know Castries South. I didn't have a chance in the last election. I had about 3 months to campaign. I'm getting to know people. I'm getting to touch people, to feel people. And for me, my immediate dream is to be able to understand, to know Castries South like no other parliamentary rep has done, and to work for Castries South like no other parliamentary rep has done. You see, every time I sit up in the house and I represent, I take so much pride in doing that. I make sure I read, I research. So when I stand up and speak, people in Castries South can say, that's my rep. That's what makes me feel good now. And when we're in government, the things I want to do, for them to say, that's our rep working. That's my dream right now. If my party needs me, I will never hesitate in any way whatsoever. But you see, right now, Philip Pierre is our leader. And Philip Pierre will be the next Prime Minister of St. Lucia. And Ernest Hilaire will do every and anything he can do to make sure that Labour Party wins the next election, and Philip Pierre is the leader. We're in politics. You will never find people not creating rumors and trying to create division, whatnot. But I'm not on that. You see, Castries South, I'm in love with Castries South. In love.
Okay. Now, the issue of your vehicle, I think you need to clear the air on that also.
Yeah.
Give us the history behind that, and where do things stand currently?
Well, I wish the government to know. Every day I get little messages that they're going to come to arrest me and take the vehicle. And like I've said, where the keys I have in my pocket, I've given them the keys. Come for it and take it and arrest me. But it's all part of a smear campaign, Andre. It's all part of a smear campaign. I know, and I'll say it under oath anyway, I paid for my vehicle. It's very easy to find out if the vehicle is a government vehicle. The government just shows where the money came from, the government account or the government coffers. It's very easy. It's like if someone come at you and tell you, see that TV you have there, Andre? You thief that TV. Proof is yours. Well, I have proven to them. I've provided them with the bank statements to show where the money came from to pay for the vehicle. But it's not about truth. It's not about that. It's about discrediting Ernest. And I've said to them, I'm not political leader. I'm not first deputy. I'm not second deputy. I'm not chairman. But why is me all coming after? Why is me you want to make the target? But that has been going on even before the vehicle. The vehicle is just another episode. And trust me, Andre, the next episode will be even worse than the vehicle. Because I expect, as the elections get closer, for more and more vicious and nasty attacks to be leveled at me. Trust me, I know that. But my shoulders are broader, so I'm ready for it. I bought my vehicle. You see, when people are so malicious, they lose their sense. At the vehicle, when I ordered the vehicle, I was High Commissioner. But the vehicle is factory made. So there's a likelihood that the vehicle would come after I had left, because I ordered it in June, but I was leaving in October. So I had left as High Commissioner by the time they came and delivered the vehicle. So the guys in the office received the vehicle. They sent it down together with my container, with all my household stuff, everything, and came to St. Lucia. So somebody saw a document that said that vehicle was received by the High Commission. Oh, so that's the High Commission vehicle. And they sent it down to Ernest Hilaire. He thief it. So arrest him. Nobody asked the officers there, why did you all sign a receipt for it? And they will say, because the High Commission had left and we received it. No, you could have asked the accountant, did we pay for that vehicle? He would say, no, we didn't pay for it. Nobody does that. But they see a document and, we get Ernest. Right to the CAPSEC. CAPSEC, missing state asset. Investigate. CAPSEC writes to Director of Finance. Here is document showing that this was received by the High Commission. So is the High Commission owned? Can you investigate? And the Director of Finance wisely says, we have no record we ever bought this vehicle. And we have no record of disposing of it either. So Customs, can you take care of that? Of course, Customs says, but that's not our responsibility. All we care about is whether duties was paid or blah, blah, blah. And what's the issue? No, but go and arrest him. Why arrest him? Oh, to embarrass him. Teach him a lesson. And they got even more annoyed that I took up the keys and I shook it and I said, come for it. So they're even more now determined to find a way. It cannot be, you know, and very soon there's an appointed date in court that's coming up soon. And everything will be put in the fore. But like I tell you, I expected that, and I expect worse to come, Andre. Worse to come.
So you're saying without proof, this matter is actually going to be going to court?
Well, it's part of another case, which I'm sure you're going to ask me about.
Yes.
So.
In fact, let's get into that right now.
Yeah.
The issue of, Mr. Jufali, right?
Yeah.
Yes. Dr. Hilaire, please, just take us back, because we heard, like everybody else, Walid Jufali, that name came up after his wife had filed for divorce. And Solutions are saying, well, why is it that you never, or the government of the day, never brought this to our attention? Okay? So just take us back and tell us exactly what happened and how did Dr. Jufali get involved and this sort of thing, and your involvement, because this is one of the most controversial matters surrounding you.
I'll say two things about it. Two things. First of all, remember, as an ambassador, I represented my country. Yeah? So I operate under instructions, and I'm a functionary of the state. So that's one. Secondly, and I spoke to my lawyers about it this morning, and I have clear advice on how to deal with this question when it came up, because I knew it was going to come up. That the courts have set a date, which is very soon, early October, for the Prime Minister, who said all the things he said about me, which I'm arguing is a very coordinated, sustained and deliberate and systematic campaign against me, for him to come to the courts to prove everything. You see, all the comments about Hilaire and Jufali and what happened, he will have to come to court and see what he has and prove what he said. I have given the courts a comprehensive witness statement with all supporting documents on this matter. And I cannot wait for those documents and that statement I gave the court to be made public. I did. And I'm prepared to go under oath, and I will under oath testify to everything I said in that witness statement and every document I provided. And when those documents are made public, they're shocked by it. On the other hand, the Prime Minister too will have to sit in the dock and be cross-examined by Mr. Astafan and Peter Foster as to what he said and his proof of it. And I'll tell you something, the last time the Prime Minister was in court with Mr. Astafan, the appeals court ruled that he is not a witness of truth. The appeals court ruled that the Prime Minister in the Tuxedo Villas affair was not a credible witness and could not be trusted for his word. And that same Prime Minister will have to sit in the dock facing Mr. Astafan and answer questions to everything he said about me and Jofali. And I will also sit there with my witness statement and all my evidence and answer his lawyer's questions. And I tell you, I'm looking forward to that day. As there is a God above, I'm looking forward to that day. So I don't want to go into all the details. As you can appreciate, the lawyer said now is not the time to go into the details. But I can assure you, I'm looking forward to my day in court.
Agree. We won't go into the details, but we just need a background as to how this relationship started, you know, because again...
And that's part of the witness statement.
Okay.
And that's part of what I'll be questioning in court about. And I'm waiting for the judge to ask me questions, and I'm waiting for Mr. Alan Shastin's lawyer to ask me questions. Because that witness statement, and I'm waiting for when the lawyers say I can make it public, explains from day one how I got to know about the gentleman. I did not grow up on the bridge with him, you know. He was not playing marbles in Mr. Kade's yard with me, you know. He was not playing football, banan below the hospital with me before they put all those buildings there. So I didn't know him. So the witness statement explains how I first got to know the gentleman, how I got, what happened, all the way down to what the Prime Minister said earlier this year, chronologically, including the vehicle, huh? Because the vehicle is part of that campaign, huh? The vehicle is part of that campaign. Because the Europeans released a video a couple months ago saying, I had the vehicle, I sold it, and then in the same video they said, I bought it with Jufali money. So they'll have to come and the Prime Minister will have to explain all those things. Trust me, it will be an exciting period. You
said, use the word a sustained effort to discredit you and so on. Why you? Why are you being singled
Andre, you know, sometimes when I tell people, why me, and they tell me, how you so stupid? You don't know why it's you? Let me tell you, for me, why me? Why me? But it will all come out. Trust me.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the march now. I mean, a number of issues.
And I hope we get a chance for the callers to call.
Yes.
All those that say all the things then,
yes,
let them call.
So let's get into the march and then we'll take our calls. There are a number of issues I think your party feel very, very strongly about. So let's examine those issues. And I think the latest one has to do with this 32. So can we start there?
Yeah. I mean, this one is really close to heart. Really, really close to heart, Andre. Think about it. A $12 million US contract. And from the appearance of the contract, it is a contract to manage the design, development, and construction of sporting facilities in St. Lucia. $12 million US. That's the cost of Beausejour. I was PS Youth and Sports when we built the Darren Sammy National Cricket Ground. It costed us $33 million. So you're paying a man a project management contract that is the cost of the most expensive sports facility ever built by the government of St. Lucia. The National Stadium costed more, but it was built by the Chinese with Chinese money. This is our most expensive sporting facility that we can afford. And you're giving one man, who happens to be a friend of the Prime Minister, one man, a contract, not to build, you know, from the appearance of it, project manage the design, development, and construction of. Now, I listened to Don Lockerbie at a press conference, and I was insulted as a St. Lucian. Don Lockerbie has been asked by the media, do you think okay, let's take the cul-de-sac sporting facility they want to build along there. He says he's going to build like 2 stadiums, he's going to build basketball courts, netball courts, he'll build a sports academy, he'll build hotels down in the floodplain at the bottom. And he's been asked, you know, how can we build this? I mean, this is going to cost a lot of money. He says, you must think big. In other words, we're not thinking big in St. Lucia. Think big. Look at the Meadowlands. What was the Meadowlands before? Now, the Meadowlands before was a swampy area. Billions were spent to drain it and to build sports facilities there. The operative word is billions. We don't have billions in St. Lucia to spend on building a sports city down in Cul-de-sac. And anybody who knows the area is below sea level, it is a flood plain, it floods easily, it will take a lot of money. Do we need that as a priority in St. Lucia? So, of course, he's asked that question. And hear what he says. Well, right now, the priority is to build things in the constituency. And maybe sometime in the future, the government will link up with a private sector organization and will build it. Now, Andre, listen to that. If you go to an architect and you say to him, I want to build a new house. 3 bedrooms, bathroom, living room, kitchen. And he says to you, no, 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 Andre, stop there, stop there. You say, if you pay me, I can design the ideal home for you. I know you want 3 rooms, you want this and that. But that new room, I'll give you a helipad. I'll give you 2 swimming pools. I will give you a dolphin park. I will give you all those things. If you pay me the right amount of money, I will do it. You might not be able to build it now, but maybe in the future you'll be able to build it. So Don Lockerbie is telling us to pay him to design this ideal, comprehensive, glorious sporting facility plan for St. Lucia, knowing that most of it, we cannot build it. We may never build it. But he's been paid to design it. He's been paid to design it. They didn't have a contract. They say to Don Lockerbie, we are hiring you and retaining you. And as we have money and we need new facilities, we will build for it. No, he's been paid $12 million US to draw and to design things we may never build in this country. And that's what St. Lucia has been made to pay. The cost of the Darren Sammy National Cricket Ground. Not that we don't need sporting facilities in St. Lucia. Andrew, we cannot even manage Darren Sammy National Stadium fully. Lucidec has had to cut electricity. Wasco has had to cut water. We cannot even manage it. You cannot even manage Mindu Philip Park, National Stadium, a National Cricket Ground. But somebody is fooling us to believe that we can build all those massive facilities, including the Daher Mall in Bois d'Auvergne, will be transformed to a Madison Square Garden to hold 6,000 people. And let's think about it. At a time when we can't repair schools, at a time when we say we can't even afford to open our hospitals, at a time when we can't even cut grass on playing fields in communities, at a time when we don't even have community sporting programs for our young people, we don't even have a proper school sports program. But who is he fooling? Who are they fooling? And you know, you have Honorable Astafan, who was a sportsman, Honorable Spider Mountain, who was a sportsman, Honorable Belrose, who was a sportsman involved in sports. They are the free frontline ministers, and they are sitting and allowing that to happen. I want somebody to ask me, look at Spider Mountain in his eye, look at Astafan in his eye. I'm not going to say Fortuna Belrose because I'm sure, I don't know that she has the moral authority anymore, because she will give some bullock story. But those 2 gentlemen, look at them in the eye and tell them, if I give you $12 million US, what would you do for sports in St. Lucia? Just ask them that. If you give them $12 million now, what will they do for sports in St. Lucia? And you think the first thing they will tell you is pay Don Lockerbie? Honestly, they're on the other side. They're on the other side, but I have a very good relationship with them. I have known Spider for many years. We speak very well. Yeah, and if Spider will look at me in my eye and tell me, Ernest, the first thing I will do with $12 million US for sports in St. Lucia is to pay Don Lockerbie, let me tell you, I'll be disappointed in humanity. You understand? Because it cannot be the first thing we will do with $12 million US. Not when the whole country needs so much resources, including South Community College. But more specifically, sports. You know, we are deficient in our sporting, you know, structures in St. Lucia. And you tell me that's what you're paying Don Lockerbie to design things we don't even need right now in the country. And we may never be able to build for the next few decades in St. Lucia. There is something wrong about that contract, Andre. And remember, I'm not saying we don't need better sports facilities in St. Lucia. I'm not saying that. I think those we have already, we should maintain them and keep them at an international level. But we should also fix up the Cicero playing field and put lights on it, or give them a bigger playing field nearby. I think we should also repair the Bannan playing field, because those things are important. And when I hear talk about putting artificial surfaces on our community surface playing fields, I'm like, seriously, guys? You put artificial surface, you can't play cricket on it anymore. You know that, because it's artificial grass. You don't play cricket on artificial grass. And there's a reason why the Caribbean, we don't have artificial surfaces, you know, because of the heat. And at 4, 5 o'clock, can you really play on those surfaces in all our heat? There are also issues about watering them and the rubber that's used and what the runoff water now constitutes. There are reasons why nobody in the Caribbean really have artificial surfaces. But yet somebody has convinced the government, and it's been paid $12 million US to design it, to put artificial surfaces all over St. Lucia. So all our major playing fields now have artificial surfaces. And swimming pools. We have 1 swimming pool in St. Lucia. My daughters swim. My daughters swim. and I know the cost of swimming. Now, the cost of they have to pay for swimming is not just that the pool owner wants to make so much of a profit, but it's the high cost of maintaining the pool. We're going to build a pool in Miku. We're going to build a pool in Diga. We'll build a pool in Dennery. We'll build a pool in Labrie, in Vieux-Fort, in Soufrière. Who are you fooling? Seriously? Who's going to maintain those pools? Do we need that in St. Lucia now? So, I mean, this one is hurtful. And also, I worked with Don Lockerbie at Cricket World Cup, and I can tell you, there's a lot I can say about what it takes when working with him. Now, I'm not taking away from his professional competence because I have a lot of regard for his skills. But he's also very good at selling snow to the Eskimos. So,
okay, what are the other burning issues?
Range. Andre, how is it that a developer comes to St. Lucia, just having built a hotel in St. Kitts, almost completing a hotel in Dominica, signs a deal to build a hotel under the last government in St. Lucia using the same method that he built the hotel in St. Kitts and he built in the hotel in Dominica. The government changes. Decides we want to renegotiate the agreement with the guy a bit. There's a revised agreement. It is signed on August the 3rd, 2017 at Royalton. The Prime Minister announces the major change in the agreement is the financing of the hotel. Whereas the gentleman would go and find investors for his hotel through the CIP, and when they invest, they qualify for citizenship. The Prime Minister decides, I'm not doing it that way. Tells the gentleman, bring in all your applicants as donation. Donation money, according to the law, belongs to the National Economic Fund. The Prime Minister is supposed to come to Parliament to say how much money he expects in the fund every year and what he is going to spend it on. The following year, the Prime Minister has to come, say how did I spend last year's money, what I expect this year, and what I will spend it on. That's what the law says. And he says to the gentleman, when you bring in all the money in the National Economic Fund, I will give it back to you as a loan at 2%. 2%, or whatever, 2.5%, whatever. We said to the Prime Minister, this is wrong on two counts. It's bad business. The investor is supposed to bring in his investment, his money. Don't take the people's money that you can spend on hospitals, on schools, on playing fields, on our youth, and give it to him as a loan. That's bad business. And secondly, you said to the Prime Minister, it's illegal. You cannot make a decision on your own as Prime Minister to take money from donations on the CIP and give it to somebody as a loan. You must come to the House to get approval. That's what the law says. Prime Minister says in the Parliament, he's not taking on backing dogs. And he said he will never take my advice. And he went into a rant and rave about Jufali and blah, 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 which he will have to explain to the courts, as I said. We won again in press conferences in Parliament. St. Lucia will pay the price for that decision because it's illegal and it's bad business. Lo and behold, the guy brings in his applicants. They deposit their money and he's waiting for his money to start the hotel. When he's ready, there's no money forthcoming. In any event, I'm sure he's now convinced that it's illegal. It has to go to Parliament for approval. So he wants that taken care of. Nothing happens. He threatens to sue. Nothing happens. He says, look, let's settle this deal. I'm leaving St. Lucia. I'm abandoning the project. The Prime Minister says in Parliament, yes, there's a problem with the project. I take responsibility for that. And I will correct it by 1st of July. Prime Minister says that in the House. It's in Hansard. Of course, nothing happens. The gentleman threatens to sue and serves notice on the Attorney General. This time he wants to sue for a huge amount because he's saying loss of profit, aggravated damages, and most of the Prime Minister has already foolishly admitted he's responsible. The Prime Minister again is asked by the media, has the project been aborted? The Prime Minister says, I'm talking to other developers already to replace him. What more bad faith can you want than that? A man is in negotiations with you trying to settle, he's threatening to sue you, and you're saying you're talking to other people to replace him already? So eventually now, the government is forced to settle with the gentleman, and a settlement is made. I'm hearing, and we're calling on the government, tell us what's going on. How much is the settlement? What's happening? Because I'm hearing on talk shows, 20-something million, amen this. Honorable Dominic Fede comes out and insults St. Lucians. Insults St. Lucians. And more especially, he insults the people of ancillary canneries. Hear what he says. First of all, he says the agreement was signed 4 days or 3 days before elections, but that's not the point. In any event, you renegotiated it. So if there's anything that you did not like, you could have taken it out. The same way you change a financing agreement, you could have changed other components. You stopped the Beaufort Administrative Center. You stopped the Suffrage Square. You stopped the 4-lane highway to Groseley. You stopped the Northwest Highway that Kenny Anthony wanted to start. There's so many things you stopped. So if you wanted to stop it, you could have stopped it. You stopped St. Jude's works. So if you wanted to stop it, you could have stopped it. Instead, you revised the agreement. And then he says, we sold the land. Now, come on. We had signed an agreement agreeing to sell the land to build a hotel, for true. But you sold it. And the land registry paper shows September 11, 2017. You sold it. You don't need to blatantly and obviously say things that are not true, that can be proven otherwise. But let's put all of that aside. Dominic Fede then says, the guy brought in $54 million. He admits that. Andre, the estimates on page 7 says how much money was brought in a year before. About 5 million odd. It says how much is expected to be brought in this year, which ends March next year, and it says 26 million. So by the end of March next year, according to the estimates, the official financial documents of this country, we would have by the end of March next year at least $31 million. Dominic Fede announces that the gentleman alone brought in $54 million. So it's telling you that what's been put in the estimates is not really what's happening out there. But let's put that aside for now. So the guy brought in $54 million. He says the guy has to be paid back for the land he bought. So he's going to get 6.5 million or whatever. He then says we're going to give the guy 10% commission on all the passports he brought in. So he brought in 54. Therefore, he's going to get 5.4. First of all, Andre, the gentleman does not qualify for commissions. The CIP rules are clear. Marketing agents, authorized agents, promoters get commission. No hotel developer gets commission under the CIP rules. So he's not entitled to $5.4 million. He's not. But he says the guy will be paid back for the land. The guy will get his commission. And he said the guy claims expenses. He doesn't say how much are the expenses or what are the expenses. But then he says we're getting a net gain of 21.6. So we should be happy with gaining. Now, if he brought in 54 and we keep in 21, that means we're giving him back 33. If you take the 5 for the 5.4 for the commission, the 7 for the land, it means the guy is getting about $20 million in expenses to add up to get 33. Because if we get him back 21 out of 54, 33 goes to the gentleman. What's $20 million in expenses? Why didn't Dominic Fede say what are the expenses and how much is the expenses? What is he hiding? But at the end of the day, the long and short of it is that $54 million of our passport money was brought to this country, and we are only remain with 21. So we've lost 33. Why are we paying $33 million to a hotelier who came here to build a hotel? And Dominic Fede tells us we should be happy we made a net gain. So you have your glass of juice sitting there. Double C comes and he drinks half. And you ask him, I said, what you doing? You drink half of my glass. And he tell you, but you should be happy you have half left. But the whole glass was yours. The whole glass was yours. I'm not happy I got 21 million. I had 54 million. I had 54 million. So we've lost hundreds of jobs building the hotel. Ritz-Carlton, one of the most luxurious hotels in the world. We've lost that. We've lost hundreds of jobs for people working when the hotel starts in 2.5 years' time. And we're also losing $43 million, according to Dominic Fede. Can somebody explain to the country? And since Dominic Fede is a minister who came out and took a responsibility for it, because he's Minister of Tourism, shouldn't Dominic Fede resign, Andre? That day you have a developer who's coming to a country, he just built a hotel in St. Kitts. He just finished building one in Dominica, or almost finished building one in Dominica. He comes to St. Lucia to build one, and he ends up leaving with $33 million in his pocket. Andre, tell me something not wrong with that? Shouldn't we match because of that? Now, on top of that, you have the Sandals. You have the Ojo Labs. On top of that, you know. So you have Don Lockerbie, 32 million. Range, 33 million. Ojo Labs, about 10 million. Andrew, when will it end? Where will it end? And why shouldn't St. Lucians be outraged? Why should people tell us? Why should people tell us, oh, give the government a chance to do what they're doing? I haven't even spoken about the Dolphin Park yet, Andre. I mean, look at what happened to the National Trust when they threatened to build a Dolphin Park on Pigeon Point. Andre, just sit down as a St. Lucian. Internalize that. Who does that? Who thinks of building a Dolphin Park on Pigeon Island, Pigeon Point? Who does that, Andre? What it means to us as St. Lucians, what is sacred to us, the few things. We're not a mass country like the United States. We're 248 square miles. We have very few and selected things that have historical significance to us, and we must treasure them. And now I'm hearing the Dolphin Park will be put between Sandals and Pigeon Point itself, that open space there, where St. Lucians recreate. Where St. Lucians recreate. And the National Trust has been totally pushed aside, disrespected, and treated like they are the enemies of our state, like they are fifth columnists because they object. And their role is to protect the patrimony of this country. I mean, and the list can go on.
You want to comment now on the issue of the, well, tearing down of the print tree and, I don't want to use tearing up, but the demolition of the print tree and the Parliament building and the courthouse?
Andre, again, like somebody said to me yesterday as I was going wrong, you want to destroy a park, Jean-Baptiste Bideau Place. You want to destroy another park, Constitution Park, to build one park. Now, that's how people on the street see it. You want to destroy two parks to build one park. But, Andre, we have Derek Walcott Square. There's so much more we can do with it, to uplift it, to give it a place of greater historical significance, a little interpretation center on Derek Walcott, so tourists and locals can go and do a walkabout and read Derek Walcott's first play, you know, A City's Death by Fire, and, you know, a chronology of his excellence and really uplift the place. We have Constitution Park. A statue was put there by the Labour Party to commemorate John Compton. Again, we can lift it up. We can, you know, transform it. We have the gardens, Georgia Fifth Park, that has been totally allowed to just wither away in a sense. We have parks we can lift up and add to the look and feel of our city. What's the obsession in breaking down the print tree, the Parliament and the courthouse? Of course, we did a new Hall of Justice somewhere, so it should be built somewhere. Why, Andre? Why don't we even spend money on the cathedral, which is a place of national and historical significance that is under so much stress, so more people can go? I mean, I've lived in other cities in the world, and let me tell you, cathedrals are places of immense interest. Why give the Catholic Church a grant to finalize the restoration of the cathedral? What's the obsession? Is it just to get rid of the print tree so the print tree can be given to somebody else? Is it that? Is it that somebody... Sometimes I wonder, Andre, whether our Prime Minister does not meet people who just give him some bright, grandiose ideas, and he just says, yes, I'm going to do it. And I'm just going to announce it. So I'm going to break down those buildings. Where is Parliament going to meet? You're a parliamentarian, and you're hearing by the end of this year, Parliament building will be broken down, and you know nothing about it. And I'm hearing from the news, some of his own ministers don't know anything about it. Andre, how are we managing, how are we governing this country? That you're a parliamentarian and you're hearing your Parliament building is going to be broken down by the end of the year. And you don't even know where if Parliament is going to meet again.
Now, Dr. Hilaire, this is exactly what I was afraid of. It's already 10 minutes to 10. We have about 10 minutes left. So
and I'm just halfway through the list of things.
Exactly. So we have a choice now. Either we can continue, right, until 10 o'clock, and you come back here on Tuesday, because I mean, we want to take some calls. As a matter of fact, it may be...
let's take the calls, because, I mean, Tuesday is after the match,
right,
and some people may want to ask a few things.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so let's open up the lines right now. As you said, we have a lot to talk about. It's concerning the issues that you're going to be marching on. So our number is 451-7260. Live in studio is the MP for Castries South, Dr. Ernest Hilaire. So let's take our first call. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Andre.
Good morning.
You did mention a lot of this stuff in terms of the demolition, but I don't think Mr. Hilaire mentioned the Royal Jail, which
he did mention earlier.
Currently being demolished, and as far as I know, that is in fact the oldest standing building in the town of Castries, in the city of Castries, and I'm a little bit surprised that this move would be going ahead without any pre-warning
at all.
Badly.
In fact, it used to be a leper's hospital, caller. You might probably, I know you know something about the history of Castries. I think it used to be a leper's hospital in the old colonial days.
Yeah, and then, well, one of the buildings, the top one that the police occupy was called the Barons Asylum, which was also for paupers as well. So that entire area was crown property, and it was used for different things at different times. And eventually the police occupied it. But I'm just very stunned that this thing would be happening without any forewarning, without any...
I think we lost him. We lost him. Sorry, caller. Sorry about that. You can try calling back. The number is 451-7260. That's our number. Live in studio, MP for Castries South, Dr. Ernest Hilaire. Let's take another call. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Andre.
Morning to you.
Good morning, Dr. Hilaire. Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning.
Dr. Hilaire, I want to thank you for that biodata. You know, sometimes we are frightened to talk about ourselves, but that is what tells us who we are. So that history, that passion you have, reminds me of some of my Cuban friends that says, if it was not for the revolution, there would not be doctors today, there would not be engineers today. So therefore, you are grateful for that revolution that allowed your mother to get that building that helped all of you. And I think Andre knows your family in Lacleby. Well, you know, Andre, something I learned many years ago, rumors hurt everyone, ask for the facts. You know, I remember the Jofali incident, how Ernest explained it. Earl Huntley explained it, you know. And true to form, the court in England explained it. Yet still, we're still going on with this thing about Jofali. I have talked to educated persons who know better. They know that no ambassador appoints anybody. It is the Governor General who ascends and appoints ambassadors. Ernest could not appoint nobody. That is a fact. Am I right, Ernest?
Yeah, you're right.
Okay, we know that. Yet still we on and on about Jofali. The case has been heard, has been decided, yet we on about it because rumors hurt everyone. We don't want to get the facts. You know, you said something about Lockerbie, the land in the valley. Mm-hmm. No, right away I went to a ceremony I attended years ago when some civil servant wanted to build a hotel down there. And I asked myself then, but that's a place already flooded. Why would somebody build a hotel there? So I'm wondering in the but why question, is the but why they want to do there? Could it be that somebody have to get compensated for some land down there? I do not know. But thank you, Ernest, for the but why. And Andre, I am sensing you are moving to the trying to answer the but why question. Why are we doing that? That is what we're supposed to do. Why? But why? Why is that happening? Why is that happening? Thank you, Ernest. Thank you, Andre.
Thank you, caller. Our number is 451-7260. Good morning. All right, let's try again. Take another call. Good morning.
Good morning, Andre.
Good morning
Good
to
morning.
you, sir.
How are you?
I'm very well. Say good morning to our special guest, Dr. Hilaire.
Oh, Mr. Hilaire, how are you, Doc?
I'm very well, and you? Good morning.
They're holding on.
Okay. Chibe4.
We, my Oaxaca. Let me tell you, I just hope after the match, there's sequences. You know what that means? Sequences, follow-ups, to get things going. Now, that's not what I call for. What I'm calling for now is the disgraceful way people don't look at things, see things, and especially when you had people lying to you morning, noon, and night. That's why I consider Alan Schaffner as a sophisticated liar.
Okay, all right. Let's do that right there, caller. 451-7260. Good morning.
Good morning, Andre. Good morning, Mr. Hilaire.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, Andre, I keep on hearing that question coming back to Mr. Hilaire about is after Jovali wife take him to court, people get to know about him. But we have a UNESCO ambassador by the name of Gilbert Sugary. That man was appointed in 1992 by Sir John. It's after the general election in 1997, maybe a year, when the Labour Party came in, people get to know about Gilbert Sugary. And up to now, people are going to tell you nothing about Gilbert Sugary, and he's still a UNESCO ambassador. So I don't know what some people blame, because then lately people get to know about that. So why they keep on bringing that thing about Jufali? And Sugary is still UNESCO ambassador from 1992. It's in 97 people get to know about that. You know, so that's what I have to say.
Okay, caller. Thank you very much. The number is 451-7260. Good morning.
Good morning, Andre.
Morning to you.
And good morning, Dr. Hilaire.
Hi, good morning.
Dr. Hilaire, from my knowledge, there is no nation without a national media, particularly broadcast media, or any modern arm of communication information with its people, would you, in your governance, give serious consideration to state or some form of people media so that the nation can know what's happening? That is my...
Yeah, you must.
Thank you.
I mean, a Labour Party will return RSL, and not necessarily to be a competitor to the commercial stations. I mean, in the UK, you have BBC. In the US, you have PBS. And like the caller said, if all the commercial stations close down, where do you have to disseminate information? You do not want a station to be a competitor, which is why, for example, in the UK, you have BBC, which is funded by taxpayers. You have PBS in the US, because you need to have, the state needs to have an official way of communicating with its citizens in times of disaster, in times, for different reasons. You cannot rely on commercial operations to handle and manage something as sensitive as information. You have to have your own independent capacity to do so. So for me, that's a given.
451-7260. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, AP.
Morning to you, sir.
Yes, and good morning to Dr. Ernest Hilaire.
Hi, good morning.
You have been vindicated, Dr. Hilaire. And you are no slouch. You are not a Johnny-come-lately. You have a track record. I benefited from that through the NYC, and then later on, as you would have remembered that line, that I had attended the Robertson Henry School of Journalism. I have been affiliated with you, Dr. Hilaire. It is no state secret that when the 1997 general elections was ensued, when you came and helped out with Damian Eisenhower grades. But the crux of the matter is that you have given an entire chronicle of what has happened and what is going on. And I am at a loss as far as our media is concerned not to highlight these things. And in closing, Dr. Hilaire, I think somebody brought it up, but I will not live and breathe if I would not see the return of this great institution, Radio St. Lucia. And we saw what happened during the last hurricane, and Alan Chasney will pay for turning St. Lucian's education and healthcare. Ça c'est un code que Chasney mi pou payer pour ça. Bonjour.
Okay, caller. So, Dr. Hilaire, you're giving a promise that Radio St. Lucia will be back on the air as Radio St. Lucia or some other entity.
Well, I think our political leader has said it, that the Labour Party will ensure that Radio St. Lucia operates when we get back into office. And like I said, it is not because you just want to return something that Alan Chasney closed on. You need, as the state, to have an official disseminator of information to the people of the country. You cannot rely on private interests to do so.
Yes.
The state has to be able to do it. And I think there is an absolute logic in doing that. I hope by then that they have not given all the facilities to some private interests, as it's been rumored, but the point is the state has to have it.
Okay. We're running out of time. Let's take one more call. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Paul.
Morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Ernest.
Hi.
Yeah, Dr. Ernest. Yeah, Mr. Ernest, I've been listening to you attentively, and I just mind-boggling. I cannot understand why one government, saying that they are in the people's interests. I mean, because that's why you vote a government. I mean, to check for your welfare, to see what is in your best interest. And the Prime Minister and the cabinet of all persons, I mean, just giving away. So what is there for the small people? Look, they're talking about the printry and everything else. The vendors on the side are saying where they're going to. Look, she has 3 children there. Where is she going to? Where's she going? It's as if they have no consideration for the poor. It's sad. It is a sad moment, man, where we as a country, where we are going. It's mind-boggling when I hear all that money they say the country don't even have. And people are trying to spin it, turn it, twist it, saying about. I mean, yesterday I was listening to a particular talk show, and he was saying that we need the government have been doing nothing about sports. Yes, it is true, but don't tell me in the name of one sport so much you willing for a government to give a man so much money just to tell us what is in his mind? The man have never lived here. The man have be in the big United States of America where the man have been seeing things. We are a small country. Where are we going with that? You telling me you'll come to me and telling me, if I tell you I want to build a little home, you'll tell me, well, okay, I can build up. I can give you a plan as big as the moon. Why taking the money to maintain it? And you tell me, Russell, come in and defend that?
Okay, all right, let's leave that right there, caller. Let's leave it right there.
Russell?
That's what he said.
Come on, Russell.
But Dr. Hilaire,
true, I'm disappointed.
we've only scratched the surface.
But
There's
so many
much
people
to
that
talk
promise
about.
to call
Yes,
Andre,
yes.
and when
I
I'm
think,
not there, they say so many things.
I think I asked the pertinent questions earlier.
Yes, you did. Yeah. I was hoping Frank would call and some of the other.
Maybe next time when you come.
Maybe next time.
But Dr. Hilaire,
or you can come and sit with me as guests, the two of us.
I think he kind of put down the gauntlet when he called and said that why don't we have opposing forces and
Then
so on.
Invite him
Yes,
next time.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, Dr. Hilaire, before you leave, a few people were calling like, what makes me mad and so on, making statements about the aim of the march. What do you hope to
Yes,
achieve?
yes.
Because people are getting the impression as though, well, it's like you want to overthrow the government, have them, give up power at this point in time, or not allow them to serve their complete term. So, what is the aim of the march?
Well, first of all, Andre, like I said earlier on, the march has now become a national protest because there are different sectors who say to us they want to join. There are certain workers that want to join us, certain sectors that want to join us, and we said join. Wear your own T-shirts, your own slogans, your own placards, join. Some have asked us to speak, so they will speak at different points in the march, and they would express their concerns and the grievances they have with what's happening in the country. Our primary purpose as a Labour Party is to mobilize people who are disaffected, persons with grievances, people who are dismayed with where our country is going, to be able to make a powerful statement to the government that the direction they're taking our country is the wrong direction. And there are people who said to us that's not what they voted for. That's not what they voted for. Of course, they had their issues with the Labour Party. They wanted a change, and they took a chance. And we sent to the government, we bring out the numbers. And the other sectors are joining us to show you the government. The people of St. Lucia do not like the direction the country is going. That's not what they voted for. And to cause the government to reflect and to think about it and to alter their course. Of course, if the government does not do that, the people will have to call for the government to be removed and to give them another chance. And democracy allows you to do that. There are two ways of changing governments. You either use a gun, which we do not advocate and is not part of our political history, and we're not pushing for that, or people. It has happened before in our history, where in the 81, 82 period, the people rose up, led by the circumstance, the church and different institutions, and due to the circumstances in the country, to say, look, we needed better in our country, we needed change. And it's not unprecedented in our history where the people, led by political forces and other forces, say to the government, enough is enough. We need to go back to the polls. And we saw what happened in 1982. And the government has an opportunity, and probably the final opportunity, to really reflect on what's happening to the country every month. Just last week, this Miami Herald front page story is about the Asenza matter again and the asphalt and mining and the airport. Just when you believe that might have just been slipping into the background, the Miami Herald front page, regional news. I'm listening to a clip from regional news talking about ministers in our government and what's happening with this matter. And the government has to reflect on that we are losing our soul in this country by their policies, and so certainly by their conduct. The whole integrity and reputation of the country is being battered and bruised. And people coming out on Sunday, and there will be a significant number of people coming out, is to say to the government, you're totally going down the wrong road. To get it right. Or sooner or later, the call will be, and the people will demonstrate and say, look, take us back to the polls. Let us reflect on the decision that we made then and where we want to go.
So again, just give us a brief idea of exactly what's going to be happening, time and so on.
Well, inviting everyone to start assembling from about 1:30 at the VG playing field. About 2:30 we start marching. And we'll be, as I said, listening to speeches along the way. We will get to the Vendors Arcade, where we'll set up our platform and have a rally. Now, you notice we move from the market steps to by the Vendors Arcades. And why? The market steps is the St. Lucia Labour Party. That's our platform. That's our secret ground. And we believe because there were other persons who wanted to be part of the march, we should pay the regard and accede to a request to move it from the market steps and move it from being a purely Labour Party action and put it by the vendors arcade and a more neutral or a more nationalistic and patriotic setting where everybody, regardless of political persuasion, can come and be part of it. So we've moved it from our hallowed grounds, where the red flag is always flying, to the arcade. So we march from Vigil playing field. It's a short match. Part of the reason why is because, you know, we next day is school and we kind of wanting to finish early, but also a lot of elderly people will be taking part, a lot of different people will be taking part, and we did not want to spend a considerable amount of time walking around the city. We think our numbers will be sufficient, that the statement will be made, and that we will be there. But also, too, is the anniversary of the fire at St. Jude. And they have significance in that because also a center, and you and I never even got to speak about healthcare and the healthcare crisis in this country, is what happened in St. Jude and our reflection on the fire and where we are now. St. Jude, the works at St. Jude have been stopped for 2 years. There have been no works at St. Jude for 2 years. 2 years. Meanwhile, in the 2 years, the National Stadium has deteriorated. And people are housed there. They had a chairman of the board, Dr. Ulrich Mondesi, who was a candidate for the United Workers' Party in the last election, resigning, which is saying that this is a hellhole. You know, you cannot continue to have people in those conditions. And, you know, it is an anniversary that is worth reflecting on in a very sober manner, that this is the state of the healthcare of our country.
Mm-hmm. As I said, I wish we had more time, Dr. Hilaire, but we have to call it a day. This has been What Makes Me Mad. Thank you very much for being with us today.
My pleasure, as usual.
Maybe after the march, you can come or maybe the leader of the opposition himself. Thank you very much, MP for Castries South, Dr. Ernest Hilaire.
Thank you very much.
And good luck on the march.
Thanks.